What if the prince the realm thought was dead at the Trident never truly fell? What if, after 17 years of silence, Rhaegar Targaryen walked back into the north not as a conqueror, but as a father come to claim the son the world never knew he had? Morning light spills over Winterfell's walls when the trading caravan rolls through the gates. Dust rises under the hooves. Gray and white banners snap in the cold wind. Ravens wheel overhead. At the front rides a man calling himself Sir Demon Rivers, hood drawn low, violet eyes hidden. The dye in his hair has faded during the long road from Pentos, leaving streaks of silver gold that catch the sun. 17 years he has waited for this hour. 17 years since the realm declared Prince Rhaegar dead beneath Robert Baratheon's hammer. Merchants unload silks from Lies, spices from the summer isles, trinkets of Valyrian steel that gleam like starlight. But Rhaegar's gaze fixes on a lean boy training near the armory. 15-year-old Jon Snow moves with a fluid grace that does not belong to any ordinary bastard. The long stark face is there, yet something else burns beneath it. When Jon turns, gray eyes meet the morning light, and for one heartbeat Rhaegar sees Lyanna looking back at him. "My son," he breathes, the words lost to the wind. Jon parries a thrust from young Bran and answers with a counter that would please any master-at-arms. The blade feels like an extension of his arm. Fire and ice, Rhaegar thinks. The blood of the dragon runs through Stark veins. "You fight well for a bastard boy." Jon turns at the unfamiliar voice. The stranger lowers his hood, weathered face, pale violet eyes, a bearing that speaks of high birth even in merchant's wool. "Sir," Jon answers with careful courtesy, lowering the practiced sword, "you honor me." "The honor is mine, young Snow. I am Sir Demon Rivers, late of Pentos. These are dangerous times for honest traders. We heard Lord Stark deals fairly." "Aye, that he does. Are you here to see my father?" The word father twists like a knife, yet Rhaegar's face stays calm. "Perhaps, tell me, boy, do you dream?" Jon's eyes narrow. "Sir." "Dreams of fire, of dragons soaring over black towers." A strange look crosses the boy's face. For weeks the same visions have woken him, red scales, burning skis, words in a tongue he has never studied. He has told no one. "I dream of wolves," Jon says carefully, "as befits a son of Winterfell." Rhaegar smiles, sadness in it. "Sometimes our blood calls in ways we do not understand. Sometimes we are more than we know." Heavy footsteps interrupt them. Ned Stark approaches, gray eyes taking in the stranger's fine boots, the set of his shoulders, something that makes his hand drift toward the hilt of ice. Memories of another prince with silver gold hair stir, but that prince died at the Trident. Robert's hammer made certain of it. "You are welcome at Winterfell, Sir Demon," Ned says, measured and controlled. "My steward will see to your needs. How long do you stay?" "A few days, perhaps a week. The road is long." Rhaegar's gaze returns to Jon. "Your son shows promise. Has he been formally trained?" Jon is a quick learner. Sir Roderick oversees him. Rhaegar pauses. "In Essos there are masters who still teach the old forms. With your leave I might share a technique or two." Jon's eyes brighten and darken. Lady Catelyn emerges with Sansa and Arya. Her blue eyes sweep the courtyard until they settle on the attention the stranger pays the bastard boy. The hardness returns. "Husband, I trust our guests will find suitable lodgings in the winter town." "The merchant's hall will suffice, my lady," Rhaegar answers smoothly. "Though I had hoped to hear tales of the north from those who know it best, perhaps young Jon might spare an evening." Catelyn's lips thin. "Jon has duties one of my trueborn sons might better serve." The words land as they are meant to. Jon's face flushes. Rhaegar's eyes flash once, then calm. "Of course, forgive my presumption. Still, I sense great things in this young man's future. The gods have plans for us all." As the caravan disperses, Ned remains beside his son, watching the man who calls himself Demon Rivers vanish into the crowd. Something cold settles in his stomach, the same feeling he carried away from the Tower of Joy. "Father," Jon asks quietly, "is something wrong?" Ned looks down at the boy he has raised as his own. The secret of 15 years burns in his chest. "Nothing, Jon, just tired." But in his solar that night Ned will read old letters and wonder whether the ghosts of Robert's rebellion have finally come to collect their due. And in the merchant's hall a prince in exile will polish a small silver harp and plan the words that will change his son's life forever. The game has begun again, whether Ned Stark wants it or not. The next morning End sits among scattered papers. Ravens from White Harbor, Baratheon, the Dreadfort speak of harvests and petty disputes. None mention a merchant named Demon Rivers. The trading manifests list silk, spices, Myrish lace, all profitable goods, yet the man shows little interest in selling them. The ink is too fresh, the parchment too clean. From the courtyard below comes the ring of steel. Through the window End watches Jon train with the stranger. The merchant moves with a grace that belongs to a lifetime of war, not trade. Your stance is too wide, Rhaegar says, adjusting Jon's feet. In the Eastern style we keep them closer, quicker pivots, better balance. Jon adapts at once. Under this man's guidance the boy's natural talent takes on an elegance that reminds End of someone he hoped never to remember. This grip, Rhaegar continues, feel how it centers the blade. The masters in Volantes say a sword should sing in your hands. It does feel different, Jon admits, more natural. Some things call to our blood, the body remembers what the mind has forgot. Maester Luwin approaches, chain jingling. An interesting technique, Eastern flavor, yet the footwork recalls old Valyrian forms I've read of in Old Town. Rhaegar's violet eyes flicker. You are learned, Maester. I have studied many subjects. Do you know High Valyrian? Many Eastern masters record their teachings in the old tongue. Hen Nuhatan Iksan, Rhaegar answers with pure Valyrian accent. From my travels, yes. Luwin's eyebrows rise. He says nothing more, but the wheels turn behind his eyes. That evening Jon sits by his chamber window. The stranger's words echo. His dreams grow sharper, red dragons above towers of black stone, golden eyes burning with ancient intelligence. He feels himself rising with the beast toward stars that blaze like jewels. Dracarys, a voice whispers in the dream. Zaldriz's Buzdari Ixos Deor, a dragon is not a slave. Jon wakes with the words still on his lips. He has never heard High Valyrian before this day, yet the language flows through him with perfect clarity. What's happening to me? He whispers to the dark. In his solar End turns the pages of an old leather journal. Words written 17 years ago stare back at him. The Trident ran red with blood and rain. Robert's hammer fell. I saw Rhaegar go down, silver armor cracked, rubies scattering like blood across the water. Yet when we searched we found only fragments, pieces of armor, strands of silver gold hair. Robert insisted the current took the body. Something in his eyes suggested he knew more. Robert had been alone when he dragged himself from the water, fresh wounds that looked as if they came after the battle. The dragon is dead, he declared. That's all that matters. End wonders still whether Robert truly killed a prince or merely wounded one badly enough to let the world believe the lie. A soft knock. Jon enters, troubled. Father, the dreams, they've grown stronger since the merchant arrived. Dragons, red beasts speaking tongues I shouldn't understand, yet the words stay clear when I wake. End's heart clenches. What words? High Valyrian, I think. The stranger spoke some today. Father, am I going mad? No, Jon, you are not mad. Tell me everything. As the boy describes soaring dragons and burning towers, End feels the weight of 17 years of lies settle on him like a mountain. The Targaryen blood is waking. It answers the presence of its true father whether Jon knows it or not. Later, after Jon has gone, End begins a letter to Robert. A man claiming to be a merchant from Pentos has arrived asking strange questions about Jon Snow. The letter remains unfinished. Doubts creep in. If Demon Rivers is truly Rhaegar returned, what purpose brings him north after so long, and if he means harm, would involving Robert only make it worse? End falls into troubled sleep dreaming of silver princes and promises made beside a bed of blood and roses. In the merchant's hall, Rhaegar polishes a small silver harp by the dying fire. Tomorrow he will leave it where Jon will find it. Another test. Another step. Soon, he whispers to the flames, soon my son will know who he truly is, and the realm will tremble before the last dragons of House Targaryen. Jon finds the harp on his wooden chest after the evening meal. Dragons intertwined with roses, eyes of tiny garnets. A note in elegant script. Meet me in the Godswood at midnight. Come alone, there are truths you must know. Dr. Every instinct warns him, something deeper pulls him forward. When the castle sleeps, Jon wraps his cloak and slips through shadowed corridors. The godswood waits in ancient silence. The heart tree stands pale and red-eyed in the moonlight. Demon River steps from behind the trunk transformed, fine black leather and silver thread, violet eyes unmasked, silver gold hair gleaming like spun starlight. "You came," he says simply. "Who are you?" Jon's voice is barely a whisper. "Truly. I am the man the world believes died 17 years ago at the Trident. I am Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, heir to the Iron Throne and rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms." Jon steps back, hand to his sword. "That's impossible. Robert Baratheon killed him." "Robert left me for dead. There is a difference. His hammer shattered my ribs and cracked my skull, but loyal men spirited me away before the crows could feast. Months recovering near Maidenpool, years of exile across the narrow sea." "Why are you telling me this? What do you want with me?" Rhaegar steps closer. "Look at yourself, truly look. You have the Stark coloring, yes, but beneath it burns something else. The dragon's blood calls to dragon's blood. I'm Ned Stark's bastard, nothing more. You are Aegon Targaryen, sixth of your name, rightful prince of Dragonstone and heir to the Iron Throne. You are my son, born of my union with Lyanna Stark in the Tower of Joy." The words hit like physical blows. Jon staggers. "No, you're lying. My mother was some tavern wench, my father told me." "Ned Stark told you what he had to tell you to keep you alive. Robert swore to kill every Targaryen child. Ned saved your life by claiming you as his bastard." Rhaegar draws a small painting, worn smooth by years. A young woman with gray Stark eyes and long dark hair, face radiant with joy. Jon stares, the curve of her cheek, the set of her jaw. He sees himself refined and feminine. "She died bringing you into this world." Her last words were a plea for Ned to protect her son from Robert's wrath. "She named you Aegon for the Conqueror, but asked that you be raised as Jon to keep you safe." This isn't real, this is some fever dream. The prophecy spoke of the prince that was promised, whose song would be ice and fire. I thought it was me, I was wrong. The prophecy speaks of you, Aegon. You are the bridge between the old blood and the new, between fire and ice, between the past and what must come. Heavy footsteps crash through the underbrush. Ned Stark emerges, ice naked in his hands. Gray eyes hold murder and 17 years of suppressed fury. "Get away from him." Rhaegar turns slowly, unafraid. "Hello, Ned, you look well. The years should have taken you to the grave where you belong. How long have you been alive? How long have you let the realm believe a lie? Long enough to see what Robert made of the throne I was born to inherit. Long enough to watch corruption and decay consume the Seven Kingdoms. You started a war that cost thousands of lives. You kidnapped my sister and let her die in that tower. You destroyed everything for your obsession with prophecy. I loved her. We were wed in the sight of the old gods and the new. Lyanna came with me willingly because she knew what would happen if she married Robert." Jon's voice cracks. "Father, is it true? Is he really my father?" Ned's eyes never leave Rhaegar, but pain bleeds through. "Yes, Jon, Prince Rhaegar is your father by blood." The admission drops Jon to his knees beside the heart tree. Everything he thought he knew dissolves. "I'm not Jon Snow, I'm not Ned Stark's son, I'm not even a bastard." "You are Aegon Targaryen," Rhaegar says gently. "The blood of old Valyria flows in your veins. You are the prince that was promised, the song of ice and fire made flesh." "I don't want to be a prince," Jon's scream echoes through the godswood. "I want to be Jon Snow of Winterfell. I want Ned Stark to be my father." "Ned Stark will always be your father in every way that matters. I gave you life. He gave you everything else: honor, courage, love." Footsteps on dead leaves. Catelyn Stark emerges, face pale as bone. She has heard enough. "Sweet mother, have mercy, it's true, the Dragon Prince lives." Her blue eyes fix on Jon with horror and recognition. "All these years I hated you for the reminder of my husband's supposed betrayal, but you were never his bastard. You are the prince's son, the enemy's blood sleeping under my own roof." Catelyn N begins. "How could you not tell me? How could you let me hate an innocent child for a lie? How could you risk our children's lives by harboring a Targaryen in Winterfell? Because he was just a baby. Because Lyanna died in my arms begging me to save her son. Because some things matter more than politics and old grudges." Jon rises unsteadily. What happens now? Do I go with him? Do I stay here? What am I supposed to do with this knowledge? You choose, Rhaegar says. I will not force you, but I will not abandon you again. The realm needs dragons. The prophecies speak of darkness coming from the north, of a winter that will never end. The prince that was promised must be ready. I need time to think. Time is a luxury we may not have. If Robert learns I live, if he discovers you are my son, armies will march north within a fortnight. Then we will deal with that when it comes, End says grimly. But Jon makes his own choice. He is not a pawn to be moved across your board of prophecies. Clouds drift across the moon. 4 people stand beneath the heart tree carrying revelations that will change the 7 kingdoms forever. Jon Snow is dead. In his place stands Prince Aegon Targaryen, heir to fire and blood, though he does not yet know what that inheritance will cost. The Game of Thrones has begun again, and this time the dragons have returned to play. Dawn breaks gray and bitter. The Stark family gathers in emergency council. The revelation from the godswood hangs over them like a funeral shroud. Catelyn paces like a caged wolf. He must die tonight before word spreads beyond these walls. You would have me murder a guest under my roof. I am not Walder Frey. Guest, he is Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, the man whose actions cost thousands of lives. He kidnapped your sister and let her die for his mad prophecies. He is also Jon's father. Killing him now will not undo what we learned. Robb sits in stunned silence. I don't understand. Jon is my brother. He's always been my brother. How can he suddenly be someone else? Blood doesn't change who someone is, End says gently. Jon is still the same person you've known and loved. Is he? Because the Jon I know would never have kept such a secret. The Jon I know wouldn't be heir to the Iron Throne while I'm just the heir to Winterfell. Sansa's eyes brighten. If Jon is really Prince Aegon, does that mean he'll be king someday? Will he have a crown? Sansa, Catelyn snaps, this is not some romantic song, this is treason and madness. Arya leans forward. A real prince with dragons? That's amazing. Jon's going to be so much more interesting now. There are no dragons left, Sansa says with superiority. There are across the narrow sea, Arya retorts. I heard the merchants talking about a Targaryen princess with 3 dragons. Maybe Jon can get some too. Theon watches with calculating eyes. A Targaryen claimant in Winterfell changes the balance of power. The Ironborn have no love for Robert, but they respect strength. Where is Jon now? Theon asks. Surely he should be part of this conversation. He left before dawn, End admits, said he needed time alone. Catelyn goes pale. You let him leave. What if he goes to the king? What if he tells Robert? Jon would never betray us, Robb says, though doubt creeps in. Beyond the walls, Jon stumbles through the underbrush, tears freezing on his cheeks. Everything he thought he knew has crumbled. He is not Jon Snow, bastard of Winterfell. He is Aegon Targaryen, heir to a throne won with blood and fire. His horse waits by a frozen stream. He could ride south and throw himself on Robert's mercy. He could ride north and disappear into the night's watch. Running away won't change what you are, a familiar voice says. Rhaegar emerges from the trees, older in the morning light, worn by exile and loss. I'm not running, Jon lies. You're thinking about it. I can see it in your eyes, the same look I had when I learned what the prophecy demanded. I never asked for this. I never wanted to be a prince or a king or the answer to some ancient prophecy. I just wanted to be Jon Snow. And I just wanted to play my harp and read my books. The gods care nothing for what we want, only for what we must do. What if I refuse? What if I renounce any claim and swear to live and die as Jon Snow? Rhaegar's eyes grow sad. Then you doom the realm to darkness and your mother's sacrifice means nothing. Jon flinches. Don't talk about her, you barely knew her. I knew her well enough to love her, well enough to die for her. She saw the truth in her dragon dreams. She knew what was coming from beyond the wall. She knew only the prince that was promised could stand against it. Dragon dreams, Jon whispers, remembering his own visions. Your blood calling to you, the fire of old Valyria awakening after 16 years of sleep. Come back to Winterfell. Let me teach you what you need to know. In the great hall the arguing continues. Maester Luwin sits troubled. We could send word to King Robert, Catelyn suggests. Tell him Prince Rhaegar lives and has come to claim his bastard son. Let the king deal with this madness. And condemn Jon to death? Ent's voice turns cold. I made a promise to Lyanna, I will not break it now. Your promise to a dead woman may cost our living children their lives. Then we face that when it comes, but I will not hand over Jon to be murdered for crimes he never committed. Theon clears his throat. Perhaps there's another way. The realm grows restless under Robert's rule, his drinking, his debts, the queen's influence. Many lords whisper of better days under Targaryen rule. You speak treason, Catelyn warns. I speak truth. The Ironborn remember when dragons flew and the realm knew peace through strength. If Prince Rhaegar lives, if he has a legitimate heir, then we have civil war, Robb finishes. Brother fighting brother again. Sansa looks worried. Will we have to fight? Will Jon really try to take the Iron Throne? Jon doesn't want the throne, Arya says. He told me once that kings live in cages made of gold. He'd rather be free. What Jon wants may not matter, Luwin says heavily. If Prince Rhaegar publicly acknowledges him, every enemy of House Baratheon will rally. The boy will have no choice but to fight or die. The great doors swing open. Rhaegar and Jon return from the forest, both grim but resolved. Lord Stark, Rhaegar says formally, I request a private audience with you and your family. There are matters we must discuss. More secrets? Catelyn's voice drips sarcasm. More lies wrapped in pretty words about prophecy and destiny. No more lies, only truth, however painful. Jon steps forward. I've made my choice. I'll not run from what I am, but I'll not abandon who I've become either. If I am truly Aegon Targaryen, then I'll try to be worthy of both names. And what does that mean for us? Robb asks quietly. It means everything changes, but it also means we face that change together as a family. Catelyn laughs bitterly. Family? You speak of family while harboring the enemy's son. You risk our children's lives for the sake of Targaryen blood. I risk everything for the sake of doing what's right, Jon replies. Lord Stark raised me to know the difference between right and wrong. That hasn't changed because my father's name has. End feels his heart swell with pride despite the darkness gathering. Whatever trials lie ahead, Jon Snow, Prince Aegon Targaryen, remains the honorable young man he raised. The blood of dragons may flow in his veins, but the heart of a Stark beats in his chest. Very well, End says. We listen to what Prince Rhaegar has to say, but make no mistake, any plan that puts my family in danger will find no support from me. Rhaegar nods. I would expect nothing less from the man who raised my son to be a better person than I ever was. As the Stark family gathers around the table, ravens begin circling Winterfell's towers. Word will spread soon, as it always does. The Game of Thrones has begun again, and this time the stakes are higher than anyone can imagine. Winter is coming, but fire and blood come with it. Maester Luwin's hands tremble as he ties the raven's leg. 3 messages, one for King's Landing, one for White Harbor, one for Bear Island. Are you certain, my lord? Once these ravens fly, there will be no taking back what follows. End stands by the window. The choice was taken from us the moment Prince Rhaegar revealed himself. Better that our allies learn the truth from us than from our enemies. And the king. Robert will rage and call his banners, but perhaps this time the realm will choose differently. The ravens take flight like dark arrows into the storm. In the Red Keep, Robert Baratheon sits slumped on the Iron Throne, wine in his fist. Varys approaches with a raven scroll. Robert breaks the seal. Confusion becomes volcanic rage. The cup shatters against the floor. Rhaegar Targaryen lives, his roar echoes through the hall. That silver-haired bastard lives and claims Ent's bastard boy as his heir. Cersei watches from the gallery, calculating how this crisis might benefit House Lannister. Summon the small council, send ravens to every loyal lord. I want 40,000 swords marching north within the fortnight. Grand Maester Pycelle ventures carefully, Your Grace, perhaps we should consider. Consider what? The dragon prince who stole my beloved Lyanna now claims to have spawned an heir with her. There is nothing to consider but war. In Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister reads the same news with composure. The old lion sits overlooking the sunset sea. Interesting, he murmurs, very interesting indeed. Tyrion enters with wine already in hand. Father. Sit, Prince Rhaegar Targaryen has returned from the dead to claim the bastard of Winterfell as his legitimate heir. Tyrion nearly chokes. Well, that's one way to start the day. I assume Robert is calling his banners. As we speak, but Robert is not the strategist he once was. Wine and whores have dulled his edge. This presents opportunities for those wise enough to recognize them. What opportunities? The realm grows weary of Robert's excesses, his debts mount while his attention wanes. A Targaryen claimant with Stark support might prove appealing to certain lords. We must position ourselves carefully for whatever comes. At Winterfell the castle bustles as northern lords answer end summons. First arrives Wyman Manderly from White Harbor, massive form requiring 2 horses. My Lord Stark, your raven spoke of urgent matters concerning the realm's security. End rises from the high table where Jon now sits openly. Lord Manderly, there are truths you must know. As End explains, Manderly's eyes grow wide with calculation. Prince Rhaegar lives and claims this young man as his true-born heir. I do not claim him, Rhaegar says, stepping from the shadows. I acknowledge him. Aegon Targaryen is my son by Lyanna Stark, born in lawful wedlock before gods and men. Manderly studies Jon. You have proof of this marriage. I have the word of Ned Stark and the evidence of blood itself. Look at the boy's dreams, his natural skill, the way fire calls to fire. Jon meets the Lord's gaze. I ask nothing of you, my lord, but I will not deny what I am or run from what I may become. Manderly nods slowly. White Harbor remembers the Targaryens. My grandfather served the Mad King faithfully until the rebellion. We have no love for House Baratheon or their Lannister allies. Then you support Prince Rhaegar's claim, End asks carefully. I support the rightful king, whoever that may be. If Prince Aegon can prove his worthiness, White Harbor will not stand in his way. Soon after come Great John Umber with 100 mounted men, Rickard Karstark with quiet dignity. Tensions surface at once. Umber openly declares for any Targaryen who restores the old ways. Karstark speaks carefully of oaths that cannot be easily broken. I swore allegiance to King Robert 17 years ago, Karstark says. House Karstark does not break its word lightly. Even for a bastard king who cares more for wine than his people, Umber counters, the Targaryens brought 3 centuries of peace. The Targaryens also brought the Mad King. Jon listens with growing understanding. Every choice carries consequences, every ally comes with a price, yet his resolve strengthens. My lords, he says, rising, I know what you see when you look at me, a bastard boy with unclear loyalties and untested resolve. But I am Aegon Targaryen, 6th of my name, and I am also Jon Snow of Winterfell. I will not abandon the north that raised me to claim a throne I have not earned. If I am to be king, I will be a king worthy of both my names. The north will always have a place at my table and a voice in my council. Great Jon pounds the table. Well spoken, lad, you may have dragon's blood, but you've got a wolf's heart. The next morning Lady Meage Mormont arrives with a small guard of fierce-eyed women. Lord Stark, I've come to see this dragon prince for myself. Rhaegar meets her in the courtyard. She circles him like a hunter evaluating prey. You look like your father. King Aerys had that same pretty face and silver tongue. I am not my father, just as you are not yours. Mormont barks a laugh. Fair point, dragon. My father was a fool who died young. I've lived longer by being smarter. She turns to Jon. And what about you, boy? You ready to rule 7 kingdoms? I'm ready to learn how, with the help of those wiser than myself. Honest answer, I like that. Bear Island remembers when Targaryens protected the realm instead of just ruling it. If you can be half the man your namesake was, you might do well enough. That evening Rhaegar works with Jon in the practice yard. The teaching intensifies. Feel the fire in your blood, let it guide your blade, but never let it rule your mind. Jon's movements flow with increasing grace and power. The Targaryen heritage awakens visibly in his bearing and the unconscious authority growing within him. The realm will test you soon, kings and lords who see only a bastard pretender. You must show them the dragon's fire while keeping the wolf's wisdom. I understand, but what if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough? Then you'll learn from your failures and grow stronger. That is what separates true kings from mere tyrants. Above them, more ravens circle. Word spreads across the 7 kingdoms like ripples on a pond. In King's Landing, Robert rages and plans war. In castles great and small, lords weigh their loyalties. The Game of Thrones has begun again, and this time the dragons are ready to play. The Great Hall of Winterfell has never held such a gathering. Banners from across the north hang from the ancient walls, the Mermaid of Manderley, the Umber Giant in chains, the Sunburst of Karstark, the Black Bear of Mormont. At the high table sits Prince Rhaegar in black and red. Beside him stands Jon Snow, no longer hiding his true heritage. "Lords and ladies of the north," Rhaegar's voice carries. "For 17 years the realm has believed me dead. For 17 years my son has lived in exile from his birthright. Today that ends." He rises, silver gold hair catching the torchlight like a crown. In his hands rests an ancient blade of Valyrian steel, dark metal rippling with patterns like frozen fire. "I, Rhaegar of House Targaryen, first of my name, rightful king of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, lord of the 7 kingdoms and protector of the realm, do hereby reclaim my throne usurped by Robert of House Baratheon." The words ring like a bell-tolling war. Some lords nod, others shift uncomfortably. None dare speak against the prince returned from the grave. "Furthermore, I name my trueborn son Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name, as my heir and prince of Dragonstone, born of my union with Lady Lyanna Stark in the sight of gods and men." Jon steps forward, heart pounding. For weeks he has wrestled with this moment. Now the time for doubt has passed. "I accept. I am Aegon Targaryen, son of Prince Rhaegar and Lady Lyanna, and I claim my place as heir to the Iron Throne." Rhaegar extends the blade. "Then take up Blackfire, the Sword of Kings, and let all who witness know that House Targaryen has returned." Jon's fingers close around the ancient hilt. The steel sings in his grasp, recognizing the fire that flows in his veins. As he lifts the sword, its dark surface reflects the torchlight like captured starfire. "Long live King Rhaegar," Greatjon's voice booms. "Long live Prince Aegon." The cry is taken up by others. Not all join the chorus, but enough voices ring out to shake the foundations of Winterfell. Far to the south, Robert's host crosses the neck like a dark tide. 20,000 men march under the crowned stag. At their head rides the king himself, massive form encased in steel and fury. "How much farther to Winterfell?" "Another fortnight at this pace, your grace, but we've had word from the twins. Lord Frey requests audience before we cross his bridge." Robert's eyes flash. "Walder Frey can kiss my royal ass, we cross where and when I say." Beside him rides Jaime Lannister, golden hair flowing beneath a lion's head helm. The Kingslayer's thoughts churn with conflicting loyalties. "I swore to protect the royal family. But which royal family? The Baratheons who wear the crown or the Targaryens who were born to it? He killed the Mad King to save King's Landing from wildfire. Now that King's son returns with claims of legitimacy and justice, what does honor demand of a man who has already broken the most sacred of oaths?" At the twins, Lord Walder Frey waits with calculated patience, surrounded by his countless sons. "Late again," he mutters as servants announce riders. 90 years I've lived and kings are always late." But the banners that approach are not the crowned stag. They bear the direwolf of Stark and various northern houses, a force moving south to intercept Robert's host before it can reach Winterfell. "Well, well," Frey chuckles darkly, "it seems the wolves mean to bare their teeth after all." The Battle of the Twins begins at dawn. Northern forces attempt to seize the crossing. Lord Stevron Frey leads the castle's defense with 500 men while nearly 1,000 Northmen assault the eastern tower. Steel rings, blood slicks the ancient stones, bodies fall into the green fork. By midday the Northmen hold the eastern tower, but the western tower and the bridge remain in Frey hands. In King's Landing, Cersei watches the crisis with calculating eyes. Ravens bring news of battles and declarations. Each message shifts the board in her mind. Father's strategy proves wise. Let Robert exhaust himself fighting dragons while we position ourselves for whatever follows. Her children play in the gardens, unaware their futures hang in the balance of distant battles. Back at Winterfell, Arya corners Jon in the Godswood as he practices with Blackfyr. "I want to come with you." "Arya, you can't, it's too dangerous." "I can fight, I've been practicing with Needle every day, I'm not some helpless girl like Sansa." "You're 9 years old, this is war, not a game." Her face sets in stubborn lines that remind him of their father. "You're my brother, no matter what your name really is, brothers protect each other." Jon's heart clenches. "If you truly want to help, stay here and protect Bran and Rickon, they'll need someone brave to watch over them while father and I are gone." Arya considers with the seriousness of a seasoned general. "You really think they'll need protecting?" "I think dark times are coming to the Seven Kingdoms, and the innocent always suffer most when great lords play their games." That evening, reports arrive from the Battle of the Twins. Rhaegar and Jon meet privately in Ents Solar. Robert moves faster than expected. His host will be at the Twins within days. "Are we strong enough to meet him in the field?" "No, Robert commands 20,000, we have perhaps 8, but we have advantages beyond mere numbers. We have the north itself, every stream and hill, every hidden path and ancient stronghold. Robert's army is far from home, we fight on familiar ground, and we have something else he lacks, a cause worth dying for. Revenge for past wrongs. Justice for future generations." The realm groans under Robert's excesses. Lords whisper of better days when dragons flew and the kingdom knew peace through strength. As night falls, Jon stands alone on the battlements watching the northern lights dance across the sky, sheets of green and gold, beautiful and terrible as dragonfire. "I am Aegon Targaryen," he tells himself, testing the words. "Prince of Dragonstone, heir to the Iron Throne, the last dragon of House Targaryen." But in his heart he remains Jon Snow of Winterfell, raised by wolves in the cold north. Whatever crown he may one day wear, that truth will never change. Behind him, Blackfyr rests against the stone Valyrian steel, drinking the starlight. Tomorrow will bring new battles, new choices, new tests of the prince who was promised. The Game of Thrones has begun in earnest, and the North remembers what dragons can do when properly awakened. The banners of Robert Baratheon darken the horizon like a storm cloud. 20,000 men spread across the landscape before Winterfell's walls. At their head sits the king, blue eyes burning with 17 years of suppressed rage. "Open your gates, Ned Stark. Send out the Targaryen pretenders and I'll spare your family the horrors of siege." From the battlement's end looks down at his oldest friend with grief heavy in his heart. The man below bears little resemblance to the laughing youth who fought beside him at the Trident. This Robert is harder, crueler, twisted by wine and bitterness. "You know I cannot do that, your grace. These are my guests, given the protection of my roof and salt." "Guests, you harbor the man who stole my beloved Lyanna. You shelter his bastard spawn and call it hospitality." Jon steps forward in the black and red of House Targaryen, Blackfyr naked in his hands. "I am no bastard, Robert Baratheon. I am Aegon Targaryen, 6th of my name, trueborn son of Prince Rhaegar and Lady Lyanna Stark. If you want my head, come and take it." Robert's face purples, his warhammer swings up. "You dare speak that name to me, boy? You dare claim blood from the woman whose death I've mourned for 17 years? My mother died bringing me into this world, but she lived long enough to name me and to make Lord Stark promise to protect me from your wrath. Today that protection ends, but not my claim." Silence stretches between the armies, then Robert's hammer falls and 20,000 voices roar as one. "Take the castle, burn it to the ground if you must, but bring me the dragon's head." Siege engines lumber forward, arrows darken the sky. On the walls, defenders loose their own volleys while boiling oil pours down. Jon stands with northern archers, Blackfyr sheathed across his back while he draws a longbow. His arrows find their marks with uncanny accuracy. Aim for the officers, cut off the snake's head and the body dies. Below, Jaime Lannister leads heavy cavalry toward the main gate, golden armor gleaming. The portcullis buckles under repeated charges until finally it gives way with a screech of tortured metal. Into the breach for King Robert. The courtyard becomes a killing ground. Jon leaps from the battlements, Blackfyr singing as he lands among Baratheon soldiers. Valyrian steel cuts through mail and flesh with equal ease. A sergeant swings a heavy mace. Jon ducks low. Blackfyre whispers up in a silver arc that opens the man from groin to gullet. Blood sprays across ancient stones. So easy, Jon thinks with sick fascination. One moment alive, the next just meat and memory. The reality of war hits like a physical blow. This is death made manifest, and he is both its agent and its target. Behind you, my prince, Greatjon's warning comes just in time. Jon spins to face a royal guardsman in white enamel, longsword raised. Blackfyre meets the blade in a shower of sparks. They circle warily. Yield, boy, King Robert wants you alive to face justice. Justice? What justice is there in murdering children for their father's crimes? The guardsman's answer is a vicious overhead cut. Blackfyre turns it aside. Jon's riposte opens the man's throat. Second kill, some cold part of his mind notes. How many more before this day ends? Near the Great Hall end, Stark fights back-to-back with Rhaegar against Lannister men-at-arms. Ice and the prince's blade work in deadly harmony. This ends today, Rhaegar pants. One way or another, the realm's bleeding stops here. But the cost keeps climbing. A roar from across the courtyard. Robert wades through the melee like a force of nature, warhammer crushing everything in its path. Rhaegar, face me, you silver-haired coward. Rhaegar meets that gaze without flinching. And get the children to safety. This is between Robert and me. I won't leave you to face him alone. You must, whatever happens here, Aegon must survive. The realm needs him for what's coming. Robert smashes through the last line of defenders. 17 years I've waited for this moment. 17 years of dreaming about your death. Then dream no more. The duel that follows will be sung for generations. Robert's brute strength against Rhaegar's speed and skill. Hammer against sword, rage against duty. They circle like wolves, each seeking the opening that will end their feud forever. Robert's first blow nearly takes Rhaegar's head. The prince's riposte opens a gash along the king's arm, but the wound only fuels Robert's fury. She was mine, Lyanna was promised to me. She chose otherwise. Love cannot be commanded, only given freely. Their battle rages across the courtyard. Blood flows from cuts on both men, neither yields. Then disaster from an unexpected quarter. Theon Greyjoy appears at the Great Hall's entrance, little Bran struggling in his grasp, a dagger to the boy's throat. Enough, everyone stop or the boy dies. The fighting falters, En's face goes white. Let him go, Theon, he's just a child. A child whose life can buy my family's freedom. Tell your men to lay down arms or watch your son bleed out on these stones. Robert sees his opportunity. While Rhaegar's attention wavers for a heartbeat, the king's hammer swings in a devastating arc. The blow catches the prince in the ribs with a sound like breaking thunder, hurling him backward against the Great Hall's steps. No, Jon's scream echoes as he sees his father fall. End reaches Rhaegar first, blood froths on the prince's lips, violet eyes grow dim. Protect him, Rhaegar whispers with his last breath, the prince that was promised. Robert advances for the killing blow. End rises to block his path, ice naked in his hands. Stand aside, End, this doesn't concern you anymore. It has always concerned me, from the moment I held Lyanna's hand as she died, from the moment I swore to protect her son. Then you'll die with them. Ice rises to meet the blow. Valyrian steel sings as it turns aside the king's weapon, but the force drives End to his knees. Robert's return stroke caves in his skull with a wet crunch. Father, Rob's cry joins Jon's. The sight of Ned Stark's death breaks something fundamental in Jon. The careful control Rhaegar taught him shatters. The dragon's fire roars to life in his veins. Dracarys, Jon screams in High Valyrian, though he does not remember learning the word. Blackfyre becomes a thing of terrible beauty. Men fall before him like wheat before a scythe as he carves a bloody path toward Robert. Before he can reach the king, horns sound from beyond the walls. A new army approaches from the east, banners of the leaping trout of House Tully. The Blackfish has arrived with 5,000 fresh men just as the battle seemed lost. Riverland's Tully Stark Targaryen. Sir Brynden Tully leads the charge personally. Behind him ride the flower of the Riverlands, Mallister and Darry, Piper and Vance, all united under the dragon's banner. Robert's forces, already exhausted, begin to crumble. What seemed certain victory moments ago transforms into desperate retreat. "Fall back," James shouts, "regroup beyond the walls." The courtyard empties, leaving only the dead and dying. Jon kneels beside his father's body, tears mixing with blood as he cradles Ent's broken form. "I failed him, I failed them both." Robb's hand falls on his shoulder. "No, brother, you fought like a dragon and a wolf both, father would be proud." As the sun sets over Winterfell's blood-stained stones, the realm has irrevocably changed. Kings have fallen, oaths have been broken, the Game of Thrones has claimed its first great casualties. But the prince that was promised still lives, and the fire in his blood burns brighter than ever before. 3 days after the Battle of Winterfell, King Robert Baratheon dies in agony. The wound from Rhaegar's blade, small though it seemed, has festered beyond any maester's ability to heal. Poison, some whisper, no proof exists. Robert's last words are curses against dragons and their silver-haired spawn. The news reaches King's Landing like a thunderbolt. Cersei receives the raven in her solar. Her green eyes show no grief, her lips curve in a smile cold as winter winds. "Guards, summon the small council immediately, and bring my son." Within the hour, 12-year-old Joffrey sits upon the Iron Throne, the crown of kings resting awkwardly on his golden head. Cersei stands beside him in cloth of gold. "Lords and ladies of the realm, King Robert is dead, struck down by the Targaryen pretender at Winterfell. But his bloodline continues in his trueborn son, Joffrey of House Baratheon, first of his name, rightful king of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men." Grand Maester Pycelle steps forward. "Long live King Joffrey." The cry is taken up, though many voices sound hollow. A boy king has rarely brought peace, and with war already ravaging the north, few believe Joffrey's reign will prove different. On Dragonstone, Stannis Baratheon receives his own ravens with grim satisfaction. Robert's death creates the opportunity he has waited for since the rebellion. "Summon Maester Cresson, we have proclamations to write." Davos Seaworth watches carefully. "My lord, the boy has already been crowned. Many will see him as the rightful heir." "Many will be wrong. Robert died without legitimate issue. I am his heir by right of blood and law, and I will have what is mine." Ravens from Dragonstone carry a different message. Stannis Baratheon, Lord of Dragonstone, declares himself the true king and calls upon all loyal lords to reject the bastard usurper in King's Landing. In the Reach, yet another claimant emerges. Renly Baratheon has spent months cultivating allies among the roses of Highgarden. When news of Robert's death arrives, he is already surrounded by the flower of Reach nobility. "My lords, my brother Robert is dead, killed by Targaryen madness. My other brother Stannis would rule through fear and rigid law, but I offer something different, a king who understands that ruling means more than simply giving commands." Lord Mace Tyrell nods approvingly. Margaery watches with calculating eyes. "What do you propose, my lord?" "I propose we give the realm a king they can love as well as fear. A king who will bring justice tempered by mercy, loss softened by wisdom." The lords of the Reach murmur agreement. Within days, a third crown sits on a third head. The realm tears itself apart between competing claims. But in the north, a different kind of king-making unfolds. Jon, who refuses to abandon the name Stark entirely, sits in Winterfell's great hall wearing the black and red of his Targaryen heritage. Blackfire rests across his knees. "The realm bleeds," he says to the assembled northern lords. "3 kings now claim the Iron Throne while the true threats gather beyond our sight. We must choose our path carefully." Lord Manderly leans forward. "Prince Aegon, your father's death has left you as the last Targaryen claimant. Many would see that as the strongest claim of all." "My father's death has left me an orphan and the North without its lord. I will not compound that tragedy by rushing into wars I cannot win." Great Jon pounds the table. "The boy speaks sense. Let the Southerners kill each other over their golden chairs. The North has bled enough for Southern kings." Lady Mormont nods. "Bear Island remembers the old ways. We choose our own kings and we don't need Southern lords telling us who to follow." Maester Luwin raises a warning hand. Isolation may seem appealing, but the realm's wars have a way of reaching even the most distant corners. We cannot simply ignore what happens beyond our borders. Nor should we, Jon agrees, but neither should we rush to join conflicts that serve no one's interests but the ambitious. The debate continues late into the night. Some favor supporting Stannis as Robert's legitimate heir, others prefer Renly's charm, a few brave souls even suggest declaring for Jon himself. He quickly dismisses such talk. "I am 16 years old, I have never ruled so much as a village, let alone a kingdom. If I am to wear a crown someday, I must earn it through deed, not birth." Meanwhile, Tyrion Lannister rides north with a small escort. His orders from Cersei are clear, but his own intentions more complex. 3 kings and counting, he muses, and each one believes his cause the most just. Perhaps the Stark boy will prove more reasonable than his elders. When Tyrion arrives at Winterfell, he finds the castle still bearing scars from the recent battle. Dark stains on the courtyard stones, banners of mourning for the fallen lord. "Prince Aegon," Tyrion says formally, "I come as envoy from King Joffrey, first of his name, with terms for ending this conflict." "Speak them." "Bend the knee and renounce any claim to the Iron Throne. In return, you will be granted lordship of a holdfast in the Crownlands, and your followers will receive royal pardons for their rebellion." Jon considers carefully, and what of justice for Lord Stark's murder? King Robert died in honorable combat. Lord Stark fell defending a traitor to the crown. There can be no justice for treason, only mercy for those who renounce it. Jon's gray eyes harden. "Then you have your answer, Lord Tyrion. The North remembers its own, and we do not forget our dead." "I thought you might say that, though I had to make the offer." Queen Cersei insisted on proper forms being observed. "And what do you think, imp?" Greatjon growls. "Do you believe your nephew's crown fits him well?" Tyrion's smile is rueful. "I think crowns are heavy things, my lord, and some heads are not built to bear their weight." That evening Jon walks alone through Winterfell's crypts. Ned Stark's tomb sits alongside generations of Winterfell lords, his stone face carved with the same stern dignity he wore in life. "I failed you," Jon whispers. "You raised me to be honorable, and I let you die for my sins." "Honor didn't fail you," Tyrion's voice comes from the shadows. "Politics did. Honor is a luxury few can afford in times like these." Jon turns. "Why are you here, Lord Tyrion, truly?" "Because I see a young man struggling with choices no one should have to make. Because I know what it's like to be defined by circumstances beyond your control. Your nephew will see me dead before this ends." "My nephew sees enemies everywhere, even where none exist, but you have allies he lacks, people who follow you by choice rather than fear." "Is that enough?" "Sometimes, and sometimes it has to be." Outside, ravens circle Winterfell's towers. Letters arrive daily with news of fresh upheavals, lords declaring for various kings, armies mustering, alliances forming and breaking like morning frost. The realm has not seen such chaos since Aegon the Conqueror first flew his dragon over Westeros 3 centuries ago. Now dragons walk the earth again, but they bear the wolf's heart and the North's memory. Whatever comes next, Jon Stark knows he will face it as both dragon and wolf, fire and ice united in one person, the living symbol of ancient prophecies awakening in a world that thought such things were only songs. The Game of Thrones has become a war of kings, and the North must choose which crown will command its loyalty. But first Jon must decide if he is willing to reach for a crown himself, or if the price of power is higher than even dragons should pay. The War Council meets in Winterfell's Great Hall as spring struggles to break winter's grip. Maps spread across the high table show the realm divided, red for Lannister, blue for Stark Targaryen, gold for the competing Baratheon claimants. Jon stands at the table's head, no longer the uncertain bastard boy, but a young man hardened by battle and loss. "The Riverlands burn," Maester Luwin reports. "Lord Tywin has crossed the Red Fork with 15,000 men. Sir Jaime leads another 8,000 from Casterly Rock. They mean to crush all resistance before we can march south." Jon traces the rivers. The Riverlands are the key to everything. Control them and we control the realm's heart. Lose them and the North becomes isolated. Sir Brynden Tully nods. My nephew Edmure holds Riverrun still, but barely. The Lannisters have taken most of our keeps, Stone Mill, Pink Maiden, Acorn Hall. They mean to starve us out. Then we don't let them, we divide our forces. I'll take 8,000 men south through the Neck. Lord Umber, you'll take 3,000 along the eastern route through the Vale passes. We converge at Harrenhal and catch Tywin between Hammer and Anvil. Great John grins fiercely. Aye, lad, the old lion thinks himself clever, but he's never faced northern steel when our blood is up. Lady Mormont raises a warning hand. Bold plans, Prince Aegon, but Tywin Lannister has forgotten more about warfare than most men ever learn. He'll not be caught easily. Which is why we don't try to catch him. We let him think he's winning, then show him the price of underestimating the North. Within the fortnight, Jon's host crosses the Neck under banners of grey and black and red. The young prince rides at their head on a destrier dark as midnight, Blackfyre sheathed across his back. Behind him march the flower of northern nobility, Manderly men-at-arms, Mormont spearwives, Umber giants with their massive axes. The first test comes at Stone Mill, where Sir Forley Prester holds the ancient keep with 500 Lannister men. The mill sits astride the river crossing, red and gold banners snapping from its towers. Send a herald, offer terms. The herald returns within the hour. Sir Forley's answer, Your Grace, the mill belongs to House Lannister now and dragons are welcome to try taking it. Jon's grey eyes harden, then we'll show him how dragons take what they want. The assault begins at dawn with a rain of arrows from Manderly longbowmen. The mill's defenders respond with crossbow volleys, but they are outnumbered 5-1. Jon leads the main attack personally, Blackfyre singing as he cuts through the melee at the gates. For the Dragon Prince, for Ned Stark. Sir Forley meets him in single combat beside the great water wheel. The knight is skilled and experienced, but Jon fights with the fury of dragons and the honor of wolves combined. You're just a boy pretending at kingship. And you're just a dead man who doesn't know it yet. Blackfyre takes the knight's head in a single stroke, as Forley's body falls. The remaining defenders throw down their weapons and beg for mercy. Quarter for any who yield, but swift death for any who continue this fight. The mill falls within the hour, its strategic crossing is now in northern hands, but victory brings grim news. Catelyn Stark is dead, Maester Luwin reads with a heavy heart. Killed at Derry when Sir Gregor Clegane stormed the castle, she died protecting the women and children in the sept. The news hits Jon like a physical blow. Lady Catelyn had never loved him, had always reminded him of his bastard birth, but she was still Ent's wife and the mother of his siblings. Her death is another weight added to the crushing burden of loss. The Mountain will answer for this. Before this war ends, Gregor Clegane will face justice for his crimes. Across the narrow sea another dragon stirs. Daenerys Targaryen, barely 14 but already mother to 3 dragons, receives word of the chaos consuming Westeros. She sits in her pyramid in Meereen, violet eyes studying reports from her spies. Another Targaryen claimant, a nephew I never knew existed, bearing a name that should be mine by right. Ser Jorah stands beside her. Your Grace, if Prince Rhaegar truly had a legitimate son, the boy's claim would supersede yours under traditional succession law. Traditional law, as if tradition mattered when Robert's hammer ended our dynasty. This boy may have Targaryen blood, but I have dragons, that makes all the difference. She turns to her advisors. Prepare the fleet, we sail for Westeros within the moon. Tyrion, having fled King's Landing to join her cause, protests. Your Grace, the realm is already torn by war, your arrival will only add to the chaos. Chaos is a ladder, and I mean to climb it all the way to the Iron Throne. Back in the Riverlands, Jon's campaign continues with grim determination. His army moves like a pack of wolves, striking quickly and melting away before Lannister forces can respond. Village after village declares for the Dragon Prince as word spreads of his victories and his mercy toward those who yield. The decisive moment comes at Harrenhal. Tywin Lannister has made the cursed castle his headquarters, thinking its massive walls and strategic position make it impregnable. "The Lannisters have made a mistake," Jon observes from the ridgeline. "They've trapped themselves in a castle known for destroying its occupants." Sir Brynden nods. Harren the Black thought these walls would protect him too. Aegon the Conqueror taught him differently. "We don't have dragons to roast them out, but we have something else: patience and northern endurance." The siege begins not with assault but with encirclement. Jon's forces spread around the massive castle like a noose, cutting off all supply lines and communication. Within weeks the defenders feel the pinch of dwindling provisions. Inside, tension mounts. Tywin sits in the great hall, green eyes reflecting the firelight. "We could break out," Sir Kevan suggests, "take the boy by surprise and cut our way to freedom. And lose half our force in the attempt. No, we wait for Sir James' relief column. He'll be here within the fortnight." But Jaime Lannister will not be coming to anyone's rescue. 3 days earlier, the Kingslayer rode into a carefully prepared trap at the crossroads. A sudden rush from the trees, crossbow bolts taking down his guards. The Golden Knight finds himself surrounded by northern steel. He yields with characteristic grace, offering his sword hilt first to Jon with a sardonic smile. "Well played, Your Grace. I confess I didn't see that coming." That evening Jon meets with his famous captive in the command tent. Jaime sits across from him, still elegant despite his bonds. "You're younger than I expected, barely old enough to shave, yet you command armies and win battles. Your father would be proud." "Which father, the one who raised me or the one who sired me?" "Both, I'd say. You have Rhaegar's strategic mind and Ned Stark's moral center, a dangerous combination in a king." Jon pours wine for both of them. "Tell me about kingship, Sir Jaime. You've served 3 kings. What makes one worthy of a crown?" Jaime considers seriously. "Wisdom to know when to be merciful and when to be hard, courage to make difficult choices and live with their consequences, the ability to inspire others to follow you into hell itself." "And which of your kings possessed these qualities?" "None of them. Aerys was mad, Robert was a drunk, Joffrey is a monster. Perhaps that's why the realm tears itself apart. We've forgotten what a true king looks like." Jon meets the knight's gaze. "What if I told you I mean to be different, that I want to rule through justice rather than fear?" "I'd say every king believes that at first. The crown changes men, Your Grace, even good men, even dragons." Outside the tent, the siege of Harrenhal continues its grinding work. Soon Tywin must choose between starvation and surrender. But in the wider realm, new players enter the game. Ravens bring word of ships sighted off Dragonstone, bearing banners none have seen for decades. The Dragon Queen has come home at last. And the dance of dragons begins anew. The war that started with Jon's revelation of his parentage now threatens to consume the 7 kingdoms entirely. 3 kings claim the Iron Throne, dragons fly over foreign waters, and in the north a bastard prince learns what it truly costs to reach for a crown. Winter is coming, but fire and blood come with it. The convergence begins like a slow-moving storm gathering strength. From the north comes Jon's host, 8,000 strong and hardened by months of campaigning. From the east marches Stannis Baratheon's forces, stern men of Dragonstone and the Stormlands bearing the flaming heart of Arlor. From the south rides Renly's flower of chivalry, 20,000 knights in men-at-arms glittering in steel and silk. And from across the narrow sea comes fire made flesh. Daenerys Targaryen's dragons announce her arrival with roars that shake the foundations of King's Landing. Drogon, Rhaegal and Viserion circle the capital like harbingers of a new age. Their shadows fall across the Red Keep like prophecies made manifest. Below them sail 100 ships bearing the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen. In the throne room, Cersei watches the approaching armies with calculating green eyes. Joffrey sits the Iron Throne with increasing nervousness, the boy king's cruelty beginning to crack under the pressure of real danger. "Mother, they're coming for us, all of them." "Let them come. We have the Red Keep's walls, the city's defenses, and surprises they cannot imagine." Outside the capital's gates, the camps of 3 armies spread across the landscape like a patchwork of banners and steel. Jon's pavilion sits at the center of his host, the banner of the 3-headed dragon flying alongside the direwolf of Stark. Inside, war councils debate strategy while ravens carry messages between the converging forces. "Stannis offers alliance," Jon reads from a scroll. He'll recognize my claim to the Iron Throne in exchange for being named my heir until I produce children of my own. Tyrion, having escaped King's Landing's chaos to seek parley, raises an eyebrow. Generous of him, considering he believes himself the rightful king. Stannis is nothing if not pragmatic, Sir Brynden observes. He knows he cannot win alone against dragons. And what of Renly? Still demands your submission to his claim. The roses of Highgarden have convinced him that charm trumps blood right. A commotion outside interrupts their council. Guards announce a small party approaching under a banner of parley. What catches Jon's attention is the slight figure walking beside the herald. Gray eyes meet gray across the distance. Jon's heart leaps with joy and terror combined. Arya. His sister, half-sister, though he'll never think of her differently, has grown thin and hard during the months of war. The laughing girl of Winterfell has been replaced by a young woman who moves like a wolf stalking prey. Needle hangs at her hip. Her clothes bear the stains of hard travel. "Hello, Jon," she says simply as guards escort her into his presence. "I've been looking for you. How did you get here? How did you survive?" Her smile is sharp as her blade. "The same way you did, brother. I learned to fight, I learned to kill, and I learned that mercy is a luxury the dead can't afford." Her words chill him more than any winter wind. This is not the sister he remembers, but something forged in war's crucible into something harder and more dangerous. "I heard about father, I heard about mother too. They're all dead, aren't they? Everyone we loved." "Not everyone," Jon pulls her into his arms. "We're still here. Robb and Sansa and Bran and Rickon are safe in Winterfell. We're still family no matter what names we bear or crowns we claim." Their reunion is interrupted by a dragon's roar that shakes the very earth. Drogon descends like a black thunderbolt, his rider's silver-gold hair streaming in the wind as she surveys the gathered armies below. Daenerys Targaryen lands her dragon in the field between the armies, close enough that Jon can see her violet eyes blazing with determination. She is younger than expected, barely 14, yet she carries herself with the authority of ancient queens. "Aegon Targaryen," her voice carries across the distance with surprising power, "I would speak with you." Jon walks out to meet his aunt Blackfyre across his back, heart hammering. Behind him follows his retinue. Ahead waits the last Targaryen queen and her living dragons. "Aunt," he says formally when they meet in the center of the field. "Nephew," she studies his face with curious intensity. "You look like him, like my brother Rhaegar." "So I'm told. Are you here to steal my birthright?" Jon considers carefully. "I'm here to save a kingdom that bleeds while kings play their games. If that means taking a throne I never wanted, then so be it." "You never wanted it?" Her laugh is bitter. "I've dreamed of nothing else since I could walk. The Iron Throne is mine by right of birth and conquest both." "Then we have a problem." Before either can say more, the bells of King's Landing begin to ring, not in celebration but in alarm. Green fire blossoms from the sept of Baelor like a malignant flower, its jade flames reaching toward the sky with unnatural hunger. "Wildfire," Tyrion breathes from behind Jon, Cersei's final gambit. The explosion that follows shakes the earth and shatters windows throughout the capital. The sept of Baelor, oldest and most sacred of King's Landing's temples, disappears in a pillar of emerald flame that can be seen for miles. "My gods," Daenerys whispers, her dragons shrieking and writhing at the alien fire's touch. "She's destroyed the sept." How many people were inside? Hundreds, maybe thousands. The High Septon, the most devout, anyone Cersei saw as a threat to her power. The wildfire spreads through the city's lower reaches like a living thing, consuming everything in its path. Green flames lick at the sky while black smoke pours from a dozen neighborhoods. In minutes, the political crisis has become a humanitarian catastrophe. "This ends now," Jon declares, gray eyes hard as winter steel. "Whatever our differences, we cannot let innocence burn for Cersei's madness." Daenerys nods grimly. "My dragons can reach the Red Keep faster than any army." "Wait," Jon calls as she moves toward Drogon. "Take me with you, this is my fight too." She considers for a moment, then extends her hand. "Very well, nephew, let's go claim what's ours." The flight to the Red Keep passes in a blur of wind and flame. Below them, King's Landing burns in patches of green and gold while people flee through the streets like ants from a disturbed hill. The Red Keep looms ahead, its ancient towers defiant against the sky. They land in the throne room's courtyard as Lannister guards scramble to form defensive lines. Jon leaps down from Drogon's back with Blackfyre already singing from its sheath. Daenerys remains mounted and ready to loose dragonfire. "Surrender," Jon's voice echoes off the ancient stones. "The city burns because of your queen's madness. End this before more innocents die." The guards waver, torn between duty and survival. Then Jaime Lannister steps from their ranks, golden armor dented but his sword steady. The Kingslayer has escaped his bonds somehow, though his green eyes hold no triumph. "I can't let you pass. Whatever Cersei has done, she's still my sister. She's a mass murderer. She's killed thousands of innocents for the sake of keeping power she was never meant to wield." "I know," Jaime's voice breaks with anguish. "I know what she is, but I can't abandon her, not now, not when she needs me most." The single combat that follows will be remembered as the last great duel of the Age of Kings. Jon's youth and dragonfire against Jaime's experience and desperate love. Blackfyre's Valyrian steel ringing against the finest sword in the Seven Kingdoms. They dance across the courtyard like partners in some deadly ballet. Jaime's skill is legendary, but Jon fights with the fury of all his fallen loved ones, and Rhaegar, Catelyn, and countless others. The end comes suddenly. Jaime overextends in a desperate lunge. Blackfyre takes him through the heart with surgical precision. The Kingslayer falls to his knees, golden sword clattering on the stones. "Tell her," Jaime whispers with his last breath, "tell Cersei that I tried." Jon closes the dead knight's eyes with gentle hands, honoring a man who chose love over honor until the very end. Then he turns toward the Iron Throne where his destiny waits. The throne room doors open with a crash of steel on stone. Inside, Cersei sits beside the Iron Throne while her son cowers behind its twisted metal. Tyrion stands nearby, having somehow reached the keep ahead of them through secret passages. "Sister," Tyrion says quietly, "it's over, the city burns, your enemies are at the gates, and Jaime is dead. There's no more point in fighting." "There's always a point in fighting," Cersei snarls, green eyes wild with desperate fury. "I'll see the realm burn before I let Targaryen bastards rule it." She raises a vial of wildfire, its green contents swirling like captured malevolence. "One drop of this in the throne room's braziers and we all burn together." "Mother, no," Joffrey cries, voice cracking with fear. Jon and Daenerys enter the throne room together, uncle and niece united in purpose if nothing else. Behind them come their retinues. Overhead, dragons circle like winged judgment. "It doesn't have to end this way," Jon says gently. "Yield the crown, take the black, or go into exile, but don't make more innocents pay for your pride." "Pride?" Cersei laughs bitterly. "This isn't about pride, boy, this is about survival. You think dragons can rule without lions? You think the realm will accept bastard kings and foreign queens? They'll accept justice, and they'll accept mercy for those wise enough to take it." The vial trembles in Cersei's hands as she realizes her choices have narrowed to surrender or mutual destruction. Around them, the Iron Throne waits like a steel prophecy, its twisted metal reflecting the firelight like frozen flame. The Game of Thrones has reached its endgame, and only one crown will remain when the final moves are made. The vial of wildfire shatters on the throne room floor as Tyrion tackles his sister. Green liquid spreads across the ancient stones like spilled poison. Cersei screams in fury as her final gambit crumbles. Above them, the Iron Throne sits in twisted majesty, waiting for its next occupant. "It's over, Cersei," Tyrion pants, pinning her arms. "No more death, no more burning innocents for your pride." Queen Cersei Lannister, who has ruled through beauty and cunning for years, looks suddenly small and broken as Daenerys' guards take her into custody. Her green eyes dart between Jon and his aunt, calculating even now what mercy might be bought or earned. "You think you've won? You think the realm will accept a bastard king and his dragon queen aunt? The lords will never truly bend the knee to Targaryen madness." "Then they'll learn," Daenerys says coldly from beside Drogon. My ancestors conquered this realm with dragons and fire. I can do the same if necessary. No, Jon's voice cuts through the tension like Valyrian steel. There's been enough fire, enough death. We end this cycle of blood and vengeance, or we're no better than those we replace. Joffrey cowers behind the Iron Throne, the boy king reduced to a frightened child as his world crumbles. At 12 he has ruled through cruelty because no one taught him mercy. Now fear strips away all pretense of royal dignity. Please, I'll do anything, I'll give up the crown, just don't kill me. Jon studies the trembling boy who has worn a crown he never earned. Tell me, Joffrey, do you know why your father died? Because he was a traitor. Because he couldn't distinguish between justice and vengeance. Because he let hate consume him until it destroyed everything he claimed to love. You're young enough to learn differently if someone teaches you properly. What are you saying? Daenerys asks, violet eyes narrowing. I'm saying mercy is sometimes stronger than justice, and that breaking cycles requires someone to choose forgiveness over revenge. The coronation takes place 3 days later in the ruins of the Great Sept of Baelor. The ancient temple is a blackened shell, its 7-pointed star windows empty frames against the sky. But it is here, among the ashes of Cersei's madness, that Jon chooses to accept the crown. High Septon Osric, one of the few surviving members of the faith's hierarchy, performs the ceremony with hands that still shake from the Sept's destruction. Before him kneels not Joffrey Baratheon or even Jon Snow, but Aegon Targaryen, sixth of his name, acknowledged heir of House Targaryen and rightful king of the Seven Kingdoms. Do you, Aegon of House Targaryen, swear before gods and men to rule justly and defend the innocent? I swear it. Do you swear to be guided by wisdom rather than wrath, by mercy rather than malice? I swear it. The crown that touches his head is not the traditional crown of Aegon the Conqueror, that was lost in Robert's rebellion, but a new one forged from Valyrian steel. Its dark metal is inscribed with dragons and direwolves intertwined. It is heavy on his brow, but Jon bears its weight with the strength his father End taught him and the fire his father Rhaegar bequeathed him. Rise, Aegon the Sixth, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the realm. The crowd's cheer is not the thunderous roar that greeted past kings, but it is genuine. Lords who have seen too much war and too much death are ready for a king who promises peace over conquest, justice over vengeance. Among those who kneel before the new king stands Tyrion Lannister, his clever face marked by grief for his siblings but resolute in his new purpose. Jon's first royal decree names the dwarf as Hand of the King, a choice that shocks many but surprises no one who understands the young king's mind. My lord, Tyrion says quietly as they meet in private after the ceremony. Naming a Lannister as Hand after everything my family has done, it sends a message. It sends the right message, that merit matters more than birth, that past sins don't condemn future service, and that this kingdom needs healing more than it needs vengeance. And what of my sister? What justice awaits the woman who burned the Sept of Baelor? Jon's face grows grave. Cersei Lannister will stand trial for her crimes. The lords of the realm will hear the evidence and pass judgment. I will not be both judge and executioner. The trial unfolds in the throne room over 3 days, with lords from across the Seven Kingdoms serving as judges. The evidence is overwhelming: hundreds of witnesses to the Sept's destruction, testimony about the wildfire caches hidden throughout the city, accounts of innocents murdered for Cersei's political convenience. Cersei herself remains defiant to the end, chin raised proudly as Lord Randyll Tarly reads the verdict. Cersei of House Lannister, you are found guilty of murder, treason, and crimes against the faith. The sentence is death. I regret nothing, Cersei declares as guards approach to escort her to the block. I did what I did to protect my children. Any mother would do the same. Perhaps, Jon says from the Iron Throne, its sharp edges cutting into his back as they do every king's. But protecting children doesn't require murdering hundreds of innocents. Justice demands payment for what you've done. Cersei's execution takes place at dawn the next day, swift and clean with Valyrian steel rather than the brutality she showed others. Jon does not attend. He will not make spectacle of necessary justice. But but he ensures she receives a clean death and proper burial. The political settlement that follows reshapes the Seven Kingdoms more than any conquest since Aegon's landing. Sansa Stark receives a royal decree declaring the North an independent kingdom, free to choose its own rulers and make its own laws. The price of her brother's crown is the North's freedom, a trade both siblings accept gladly. "You could keep us," Sansa observes during their private farewell, "force the North to remain part of your realm." "I could, but the North has bled enough for Southern kings. You've earned the right to rule yourselves." Robb embraces his brother, his king, with tears in his gray eyes. "You'll always be a Stark no matter what crown you wear or name you bear, and you'll always be family no matter what kingdoms separate us." The hardest decision comes last. Joffrey Baratheon sits in a cell in the Red Keep's dungeons, no longer a king but still a problem. Many lords call for his head. The boy's cruelty is well documented, his legitimacy questionable at best. But Jon sees only a child shaped by forces beyond his understanding. "You have a choice," Jon tells the former king during their final meeting. "Face trial for your crimes and likely execution, or take the black and serve the realm at the Wall." Joffrey's golden hair has lost its luster. His green eyes hold fear where once there was only arrogance. "If I take the black, I'll never have anything. No crown, no gold, no power. You'll have purpose, and the chance to discover who you really are beneath the crown and the cruelty. The Night's Watch has redeemed better men than you, and worse ones too. Will they accept me after everything I've done? That depends on who you choose to become. The Wall doesn't care who you were, only who you're willing to be." 3 days later, Joffrey Baratheon leaves King's Landing in a black cloak, bound for Castle Black and whatever redemption awaits. It is perhaps the first merciful choice of his young life, and Jon prays it will not be the last. The Great Hall of the Red Keep fills with lords and ladies for the new king's first royal feast. Banners of every great house hang from the rafters, Stark and Arryn, Tully and Baratheon, even Lannister and Tyrell among the rest. The realm begins to heal, though scars will remain for generations. At the high table, King Aegon VI sits beside Queen Daenerys, for their marriage has been announced to unite the Targaryen claims and end the possibility of future civil war. She is young, as is he, but both have learned wisdom beyond their years through fire and blood. "Do you think it will work?" Daenerys asks quietly as they watch the assembled lords feast and laugh. "This peace we're trying to build. For a while, until new ambitions arise and old grudges resurface, but perhaps our children will do better than we have. And if they do..." Jon's hand rests on Blackfire's hilt, the ancient sword now a symbol of justice rather than conquest. "Then we'll have taught them enough about the cost of war that they'll choose peace instead." Outside, the city of King's Landing begins its slow recovery. Where wildfire once burned, new buildings rise. Where fear once ruled, hope tentatively takes root. The Game of Thrones has ended, not with total victory but with compromise, not with perfect justice but with necessary mercy. Aegon VI rules from the Iron Throne, but he sits it like a man who knows its weight rather than one who covets its power. The realm has its king at last, and for now, that is enough. 5 years have passed since the dragons returned to King's Landing, and the realm has learned to breathe again. The year 304 AC finds the Seven Kingdoms at peace for the first time in a generation. Their wounds slowly heal under the steady hand of King Aegon VI. The boy who once thought himself a bastard now sits the Iron Throne with the wisdom of a man who has paid the full price of power. In the Red Keep solar, morning light streams through tall windows as King Aegon reviews reports from across his realm. The 21-year-old king has grown into his crown. His face bears the weight of difficult choices, but his gray eyes still hold the honor Ned Stark taught him. Beside him sits Queen Daenerys, silver-gold hair gleaming as she nurses their infant son, a child who bears the features of both ice and fire. "Good news from Old Town," Aegon says, reading from a raven scroll. "The rebuilding of the Great Sept progresses ahead of schedule. The Masons say it will be ready for consecration by year's end." "And from the north?" Daenerys asks, shifting little Rhaegar to her shoulder with practiced ease. Sansa reports another excellent harvest. The granaries are full, trade flows freely along the White Knife, and the mountain clans have agreed to new peace treaties. Aegon's voice carries quiet pride. "My sister rules well." Indeed, in Winterfell's Great Hall, Queen Sansa Stark holds court with grace and wisdom beyond her 18 years. The auburn-haired queen has transformed the independent North into a realm that thrives through diplomacy rather than conquest, trade rather than tribute. Lords who once grumbled about being ruled by a woman now vie to offer her their counsel and support. The Free Folk delegation arrives today, Maester Luwin announces as he approaches the throne. Tormund Giantsbane requests formal recognition of their settlements beyond the wall. Sansa nods thoughtfully. Granted, the Free Folk have honored their agreements for 3 years now. They've earned the right to call those lands home. Beside the throne, Bran Stark sits in his wheelchair. Now 14 and serving as the North's keeper of memory and lore. The fall that crippled his legs has awakened something else within him, an uncanny ability to know things he shouldn't know, to see patterns others miss. Sister, Bran says quietly, there will be ravens from King's Landing within the hour. Aegon plans to visit Winterfell for the Harvest Festival. How can you possibly know that? Sansa asks, though she has long since stopped being surprised by her brother's strange insights. The same way I know Arya will return within the fortnight bearing tales of lands where the sun never sets and people ride giant tortoises across endless seas. Bran's smile is mysterious and knowing. Some truths echo before they happen. In King's Landing that very afternoon, Aegon signs the royal decree authorizing his journey north. It has become his custom to visit the independent kingdoms regularly, not as a conquering overlord but as a brother and ally. The realm prospers when its leaders treat each other as family rather than rivals. Will you come with me? Aegon asks his wife as royal secretaries carry away the sealed documents. Daenerys shakes her head with maternal warmth. Little Rhaegar is too young for such a journey, and I have my own travels planned. The Lords of Dorne have requested my presence at Sunspear. They say the Water Gardens would benefit from a dragon's blessing. It is a peaceful marriage born of political necessity but grown into genuine affection. They rule as partners, each bringing different strengths to the crown's burden. Daenerys has learned to temper her fire with patience. Aegon has discovered that dragons can inspire as well as intimidate. The royal progress north takes a fortnight, with Aegon stopping at every holdfast and village along the way. The king, who travels with a modest retinue rather than a grand army, has won the love of common folk who remember when royal visits meant only taxes and conscription. Now they bring festivals and fair judgment, trade agreements and royal pardons for past offenses. At Harrenhal, Aegon visits the tomb of Sir Jaime Lannister, the Golden Knight who died defending his sister's madness. Fresh flowers always appear on the grave, though no one knows who places them there. Some say it is Tyrion, honoring a brother who chose love over duty. Others whisper of a mysterious woman in a hooded cloak who comes at midnight to weep over the dead. You died for love, Aegon says quietly as he stands before the simple stone marker. I hope that counts for something in whatever judgment awaits us all. Tyrion Lannister, now Lord Hand and trusted advisor, watches from a respectful distance. The dwarf has served faithfully for 5 years, his clever mind helping to rebuild what war destroyed. His family's gold has funded the realm's recovery, while his wit has smoothed over countless diplomatic crises. He would have made a good king, Tyrion observes as they ride away from Harrenhal. In another life with different choices, Jaime might have been everything the realm needed. Perhaps, but we must work with the life we have, not the one we might have wished for. The journey's highlight comes when they reach the crossroads, where a lone rider approaches from the east. The figure resolves into Arya Stark, now 15 and grown tall, her dark hair braided with shells and strange beads collected from distant shores. She has spent 2 years exploring the uncharted waters beyond Westeros's knowledge, following maps drawn by mad cartographers and sailors' tales of impossible lands. Brother, Arya calls as she spurs her horse toward the royal party. You won't believe what I've seen. They embrace like the siblings they'll always be, while Arya regales the party with tales of her adventures. She speaks of islands where people live in trees taller than any tower, of vast cities built on floating ice, of creatures that swim through air as easily as fish through water. The world is bigger than we ever imagined. There are lands where summer lasts 10 years and others where winter never comes, places where magic flows like water and others where it's forgotten entirely. And yet you came home, Aegon observes with a smile. Family calls to family. Besides, someone needs to keep you from getting too pompous with that crown. The reunion at Winterfell brings together all the surviving Stark children for the first time since Ned's death. They feast in the Great Hall where their father once held court, where Jon first learned that he was more than just a bastard boy. The hall rings with laughter and music while outside the first snows of winter dust the ancient stones. That night Aegon walks alone through Winterfell's crypts as he does whenever he returns to the place that shaped him. The stone faces of dead Starks watch from their tombs, silent guardians of memory and honor. Before Ned Stark's statue Aegon kneels and speaks the words he has carried for 5 years. I tried to be the man you raised me to be. I chose mercy over vengeance, justice over convenience, the realm's good over my own desires. I hope that would make you proud. The stone face gives no answer, but somehow Aegon feels his father's approval in the ancient silence. Ned Stark died to protect the boy who became a king, and that sacrifice was not made in vain. Beside Ned's tomb lies another, added after the war's end. Prince Rhaegar's body was brought north from Winterfell's battlefield and laid to rest beside the man who died protecting his son. The inscription reads simply, Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, father and dreamer, his song lives on. You never got to see what I became, Aegon says to his birth father's grave, but perhaps that's for the best. You dreamed of prophecies and destinies. I've learned that the greatest prophecy is simply choosing to be better than those who came before. When spring comes to King's Landing 3 months later, ravens carry news of prosperity throughout the 7 kingdoms. The royal couple has announced the coming of a second child. The North reports its largest harvest in memory. Dorne speaks of new trade routes opening to the Summer Isles. The Iron Islands have not raided a single ship in 2 years, their longships now serving as escorts for merchant vessels. In the throne room, King Aegon VI receives a delegation of septons seeking royal blessing for new reforms to the faith. The young king listens with the patience his father Ned taught him, weighing their words against the wisdom his advisors provide. The realm grows stronger when its people have hope. If these reforms bring comfort to the faithful without oppressing those who believe differently, you have my blessing. After the delegation departs, Aegon sits alone on the Iron Throne, feeling its sharp edges bite into his back as they do every king. But he has learned not to see it as a seat of power but as a reminder of responsibility. Every cut reminds him that ruling is not a privilege but a burden when he bears for those who cannot bear it themselves. A raven arrives as the sun sets over the capital, bearing the seal of House Stark. Sansa's letter brings news of Bran's latest vision, something about storms brewing far to the east beyond the Bone Mountains and the need for vigilance in the years ahead. Let tomorrow bring what it will, Aegon murmurs as he seals away the letter. Today the realm is at peace, and that is enough. Outside his window, King's Landing bustles with life and commerce. Street vendors call out their wares while children play in squares that once ran red with blood. The city has learned to live again, to hope again, to believe that tomorrow might be better than yesterday. Dragons still nest in the ruins of the dragon pit, but they have not tasted human flesh in 5 years. They hunt wild game in the countryside and serve as symbols of strength rather than instruments of terror. The age of fire and blood has given way to an age of growth and rebuilding. That night, as Aegon joins his wife and children in their private chambers, he thinks of all those who died to bring this peace. Ned Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen, Catelyn Stark and Jaime Lannister, countless soldiers whose names are remembered only by their families. Their sacrifice bought these quiet moments, these small joys, this chance for the realm to be better than it was. In Winterfell's Godswood, the heart tree's red eyes seem to weep tears of joy for the world that has grown from so much loss. The old gods keep their watch over the living while the 7 bless the work of human hands. Peace reigns from the wall to Dorne, from the sunset sea to the narrow sea. And for now, that is the greatest victory any king can claim. Ravens carry the news to every corner of the 7 kingdoms. The realm prospers, the harvest is good, and King Aegon VI rules with wisdom and justice. The Game of Thrones has ended at last, replaced by the harder but more rewarding work of actually governing.